The grand circular chamber of the Galactic Assembly buzzed with activity as delegates from numerous alien civilizations gathered. The air shimmered with holographic displays of data, each showing the latest updates from different sectors of the galaxy. In the center of the chamber stood a tall, slender figure, Ambassador Zorak from the Vrax Cluster. His exoskeleton gleamed under the soft lighting as he spoke with a fellow delegate. Nearby, human representative Captain John Archer observed quietly, his eyes scanning the diverse species in attendance. "Zorak, I urge caution," said Lyra, an ambassador from the peaceful planet Elandra. Her voice was soft but carried an urgent tone. Humans are unlike other young races. Their technology, especially their weaponry, is alarmingly advanced. Zorak clicked his mandibles in annoyance. Advanced, perhaps, but they lack our centuries of strategic experience. Their society is still fractured, not unified like ours. The fear is exaggerated. Archer approached them, his gaze steady. "I couldn't help but overhear. While it's true we have our divisions, underestimate us at your peril. We didn't reach the stars with idle hands." Lyra nodded at Archer, her expression thoughtful. "And yet, Captain, isn't it true that your people value peace? Why, then, such powerful weapons?" Archer's jaw set firmly. "History has taught us harsh lessons about being prepared. We build, yes, but we also protect." The chamber quieted as the council's president, a venerable entity known as Elder Suum, took the central platform. "Esteemed delegates," Suum began, his voice echoing through the translators embedded in each seat. "We convene today amidst rumors of war and conquest involving the human race. I implore all to heed the treaties we've forged. Let us not ignite conflicts that could consume us." Zorak stood to address the council. "Elder Suum, with respect, my cluster views this as a matter of security. Human expansion is unchecked and nears our borders. We must be proactive to defend our interests." Archer rose in response. "Ambassador Zorak, humanity seeks no conflict with Vrax or any other. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves if provoked. The power of our weapons is not a secret, nor is it our wish to use them." Whispers filled the chamber as various ambassadors discussed among themselves. Some raised a hand for silence. "It is the decision of this council that all members avoid any unilateral actions that might lead to violence. The human race is to be observed, not provoked." As the meeting adjourned, Archer and Zorak shared a long look. "A word of advice, Zorak," Archer said quietly as the room emptied. "It's not the weapons you should fear. It's what happens when you corner a desperate man with nothing left to lose." Zorak snorted. "Or what happens when you underestimate your opponent. We shall see, Captain. We shall see." As the delegates dispersed, the tension lingered, thick and palpable. Outside the chamber, stars twinkled indifferently to the brewing storm. Archer walked away, his mind racing with scenarios, each playing out the potential horrors of what might come if words failed and weapons spoke. The morning light of Vidia's twin suns filtered through the thin atmosphere, casting a warm glow over the fledgling human colony. The settlement, a cluster of modular habitats surrounded by newly erected defensive structures, hummed with activity as colonists went about their daily routines. Among them, Captain John Archer surveyed the perimeter with a cautious eye, always aware of potential dangers lurking beyond the horizon. On the edge of the settlement, a group of children played in the structured safety of a communal area, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension gripping their elders. Archer smiled briefly at the sight, a reminder of what they were all fighting to protect. Unbeknownst to the colonists, high above their tranquil outpost, a Vrax scout ship hovered, cloaked and silent. Inside, Ambassador Zorak observed the humans through advanced sensors, his interest piqued by their rapid adaptation to such a harsh environment. Commander Zorak, his aide Zil, a tactical officer, interrupted his thoughts. "Initial scans suggest their technology is primarily defensive. There is little here that poses a direct threat to our forces." Zorak nodded, his gaze still fixed on the readouts. "Keep monitoring. I want to know everything about their capabilities. And zoom in on that gathering in the central area." The screen shifted, focusing on the children. Zorak studied them curiously. Fascinating. They seemed so carefree, so unaware. Prepare a ground team. We need samples of soil, flora, and... He paused, considering the implications. Non-invasive scans of those juveniles. I want to understand their biology. Back on the ground, Archer's communication link buzzed. He tapped it, listening to the urgent report from the colony's sensor technician. Captain, we're detecting anomalies in the upper atmosphere. It could be a cloaked vessel. Alert status red, Archer commanded without hesitation. Evacuate non-essential personnel to the shelters. I'll handle the external defense. As the alert sounded, the colonists moved quickly but orderly, trained for such emergencies. Archer grabbed his weapon and headed to the command center, his mind racing with strategies. In orbit, Zorak's team prepared for a stealth descent. Remember, we are here to observe and collect, not to engage, Zorak reminded them. His order, however, would soon lead to unforeseen consequences. The Vrax team deployed, using advanced stealth technology to land near the edge of the settlement. As they approached, one of the younger scouts, overly eager and less experienced, strayed too close to where the human children played. One of the children, a small girl, curious about a strange shimmer in the air, the slight distortion caused by the scout's imperfect cloaking, ventured too close. In a panic, the scout activated a defensive pulse, not intended to harm but powerful enough to startle and knock the child to the ground. The laughter stopped abruptly as the child cried out, her knees scraped and bleeding. The sudden shift in atmosphere was palpable. Archer's attention snapped to the sound of the child's cry. He sprinted towards the communal area, his heart pounding. The sight of the girl on the ground, surrounded by concerned children and rushing adults, sent a surge of anger through him. His communication link buzzed again. Commander, we've confirmed a cloaked vessel. A team has landed near the perimeter, reported the sensor technician. Understood. Mobilize the security team. Engage if necessary, but prioritize defense, Archer replied, his voice steady despite the rising tension. At the edge of the settlement, Zorak's team had already realized their mistake. Fall back, Zorak commanded, frustration evident in his tone. We were not meant to engage. The scout who had caused the disturbance hesitated, glancing back at the injured child. Sir, I didn't mean to. I said fall back. Zorak repeated more forcefully. We will deal with this later. The Vrax team began their retreat, but the damage was done. The human security team, led by Archer, intercepted them. The two groups faced each other, tension crackling in the air. Ambassador Zorak, Archer said coldly, his weapon raised but not aimed. You have violated our settlement. Explain yourself. Zorak raised his hands in a placating gesture. Captain Archer, this was a misunderstanding. We came to observe and collect data, not to engage in hostilities. Your scout injured one of our children, Archer snapped, his grip tightening on his weapon. That's more than a misunderstanding. Zorak's mandibles clicked nervously. An unfortunate error. We did not anticipate such a reaction. Before Archer could respond, a small voice called out, It's okay. The injured girl, supported by her parents, had approached the confrontation. It just scared me. I'm okay now. Archer glanced at her, his expression softening slightly. Go back to the shelters, everyone, he ordered the colonists. We'll handle this. The colonists reluctantly retreated, leaving the two groups facing each other once more. We should resolve this peacefully, Zorak suggested, his tone conciliatory. Our mission was purely scientific. Archer's eyes narrowed. If that's true, then why the cloaking technology? Why the secrecy? Our methods may be questionable, but our intentions were not hostile, Zorak replied. We feared your reaction to our presence. Archer considered this. You have to understand, we've been on edge. Your presence, your methods, they've only heightened our fears. Zorak nodded. Then let us find a way to ease those fears. A gesture of goodwill, perhaps? Archer lowered his weapon slightly. You injured one of our own. What gesture could possibly make up for that? Zorak thought for a moment. Medical assistance. We have advanced healing technology. Allow us to treat the child. Archer was silent for a moment, weighing the options. Finally, he nodded. Very well. But any further moves against us, and we will defend ourselves. Zorak signaled to his team. One of the Vrax stepped forward, carrying a small device. This will heal the injury, Zorak explained. The child, still clutching her parents' hands, looked up at Archer. It's okay, Captain. I'll be brave. Archer nodded, his gaze shifting to Zorak. Do it. The Vrax medic gently applied the device to the child's knee. A soft glow emanated from it, and within moments, the wounds began to close. The girl watched in awe as her skin knit back together, pain fading away. It's like magic, she whispered, looking up at the Vrax with wide eyes. Not magic, Zorak said gently. Just technology. Archer watched the interaction, a mixture of relief and suspicion in his eyes. This doesn't change the fact that you trespassed on our land, but it does show that perhaps we can find common ground. Zorak nodded. Our cultures are different, but our goals may align more than we realize. Let this be the first step towards understanding. As the Vrax team prepared to leave, Archer called out, Ambassador Zorak, we will report this incident to the Council. I suggest you do the same. Transparency will be key if we are to avoid further conflict. Zorak inclined his head. Agreed. Until we meet again, Captain Archer. With that, the Vrax team activated their cloaking devices and vanished into the forest, leaving Archer and his team to contemplate the fragile peace they had just brokered. As the sun set over the fledgling human colony, Archer couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger challenge. The stars above seemed indifferent, yet within their twinkling depths lay the future of both human and alien relations, a future that now hinged on mutual understanding and cautious cooperation. As night fell over the human colony, the inhabitants tried to resume their routines, but the earlier incident weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Captain Archer convened a meeting with his senior staff in the command center, the room dimly lit by the holographic displays of the colony's defenses and sensor readings. We need to be prepared for any potential retaliation or further incidents, Archer began, his tone serious. Our priority is to protect the colonists, especially the children. Dr. Elena Hayes, the colony's chief medical officer, spoke up. The girl is fine now, thanks to the Vrax technology, but we can't ignore the psychological impact this incident might have on our people, especially the younger ones. Archer nodded. We need to boost morale and ensure everyone feels safe. Any suggestions? Lieutenant Mark Davis, head of security, leaned forward. Increasing patrols and reinforcing our perimeter defenses would help. But we also need to show the colonists that we're in control and that we're taking proactive steps to ensure their safety. Agreed, Archer said. Let's organize a town hall meeting tomorrow to address everyone's concerns and reassure them. We should also discuss our next steps with the Council. They need to know what's happened. The next morning, as the twin suns rose over the colony, casting a warm glow over the settlement, the colonists gathered in the central square. Archer stood on a raised platform, facing the crowd. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their expectations. Fellow colonists, he began, his voice carrying through the assembly. Yesterday's incident was a stark reminder of the challenges we face on this new world. We are not alone, and we must be vigilant. However, we must also strive for peace and understanding with our neighbors. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Vrax delegation came here with scientific intentions, but their methods were invasive and caused harm. They have offered medical assistance as a gesture of goodwill, and we have accepted it. This shows that there is potential for peaceful coexistence, but we must remain cautious. The crowd murmured in agreement, and Archer continued, We are increasing patrols and strengthening our defenses. I assure you, we are prepared to protect this colony and everyone in it. Let's work together to ensure our safety and build a future on this world. After the meeting, Archer returned to the command center to draft a detailed report for the Galactic Assembly. As he outlined the incident and the steps taken in response, he couldn't help but think about Zorak's words. Our cultures are different, but our goals may align more than we realize. In the Vrax mothership orbiting Vidia, Zorak sat in his quarters, contemplating the day's events. He activated a secure communication link to Elder Suum. Elder, I have an important update on our mission to the human colony, Zorak began, his voice calm but urgent. Suum's holographic image appeared, his expression inscrutable. Proceed, Ambassador. Zorak recounted the incident in detail, emphasizing the misunderstanding and the human's response. Captain Archer and his people showed restraint. They are wary, but not hostile. This incident, while unfortunate, could serve as a foundation for future diplomacy. Some considered this. We must tread carefully. The Council will not be pleased with the breach of protocol, but your actions in healing the human child may mitigate their anger. We must strive for transparency and cooperation moving forward. Agreed, Zorak said. I will send a full report and recommend that we open a dialogue with the humans. Understanding their culture and intentions is crucial for avoiding future conflicts. Back in the human colony, days turned into weeks. Life continued, with the colony slowly rebuilding its sense of security. The increased patrols and reinforced defenses provided some reassurance, but the memory of the incident lingered. One evening, as Archer walked through the settlement, he noticed a group of children playing near the communal area, their laughter echoing in the twilight. The girl who had been injured was among them, her knee fully healed. Archer smiled, reminded once again of what they were fighting to protect. His thoughts were interrupted by a beep from his communication link. Captain Archer, incoming transmission from the Galactic Assembly, reported the comm officer. I'll take it in my quarters, Archer replied. As he activated the link in his private quarters, Elder Suum's holographic image appeared. Captain Archer, we have received your report and have also been contacted by Ambassador Zorak. The Council is concerned about the recent events, but sees an opportunity for dialogue. We propose a joint meeting between human and Vrax representatives to establish protocols for future interactions. Archer nodded. That is a wise decision, Elder. When and where do you propose this meeting take place? On neutral ground, within the Galactic Assembly's central station. A delegation from your colony and Vrax representatives will be invited to attend. The Council hopes this will lead to a greater understanding and lasting peace. Archer felt a surge of hope. Thank you, Elder Suum. We will prepare our delegation and look forward to this meeting. As the transmission ended, Archer gazed out at the stars. The path ahead was uncertain, but the steps they were taking now could pave the way for a future where humans and aliens could coexist peacefully. The day of the meeting arrived. Archer, along with a small delegation, boarded a shuttle bound for the Galactic Assembly's central station. As they approached the massive structure, its sleek design gleaming against the backdrop of space, Archer felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Upon arrival, they were escorted to a grand conference room where Zorak and his delegation were already waiting. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Elder Suum presided over the meeting, his presence commanding respect. Esteemed delegates, Suum began, we are here to address the recent incident and to forge a path towards peaceful coexistence. Let us discuss how we can avoid future misunderstandings and build a framework for cooperation. Archer and Zorak exchanged glances, both recognizing the significance of this moment. As the discussions began, it became clear that while their cultures and methods differed, their shared goal of peace could bridge the gap between them. Hours passed, filled with negotiations, compromises, and the gradual building of trust. By the end of the meeting, they had drafted a preliminary agreement outlining protocols for future interactions, including transparent communication and shared scientific endeavors. As they prepared to leave, Zorak approached Archer. Captain, today we have taken an important step. Let us continue to build on this foundation. Archer extended his hand. Agreed, Ambassador. For the sake of both our peoples. They shook hands, sealing the promise of a new beginning. As the human delegation returned to their shuttle, Archer felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it seemed bright with possibilities. The stars, once indifferent, now seemed to shine with a promise of hope and unity, a reminder that even in the vast expanse of the galaxy, understanding and cooperation could light the way forward. Weeks turned into months as the tentative peace between humans and the Vrax began to take hold. The preliminary agreement led to an exchange of information and personnel, fostering a sense of cooperation that neither side had anticipated. In the human colony on Vidya, life continued to stabilize, with colonists growing more accustomed to their alien neighbors. Captain John Archer sat in his office, reviewing reports from the recent joint missions. The data shared by the Vrax had already proven invaluable, leading to significant advancements in the colony's agricultural and medical technologies. Yet, Archer knew that the true test of their newfound alliance was still ahead. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Captain Archer, Ambassador Zorak is requesting a meeting," announced the comm officer. "Send him in," Archer replied, curious about the unexpected visit. A few moments later, Zorak entered the room, his exoskeleton gleaming as always. "Captain Archer," he began, "I have news that requires your immediate attention." Archer gestured for Zorak to sit. "What's the matter, Ambassador?" Zorak's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Our long-range sensors have detected an unidentified fleet entering our sector. They are not Vrax, nor do they match any known human designs. We believe they might be a new alien species, and their intentions are unknown." Archer leaned forward, his expression serious. "Have they made any attempts to communicate?" "None so far," Zorak replied. "But their trajectory suggests they are heading towards Vidya." The implications were clear. "We need to prepare for all possibilities," Archer said. "This could be a diplomatic opportunity, or it could be a threat." Zorak nodded. "I propose we form a joint task force to monitor the fleet and prepare a response. Our combined resources will be more effective in dealing with whatever comes." "Agreed," Archer said. "Let's brief our teams and set up a strategy meeting immediately." In the command center, human and Vrax officers worked side by side, coordinating their efforts. The tension was palpable, but there was also a sense of unity and purpose. Archer stood next to Zorak, reviewing the latest sensor data. "How much time do we have?" Archer asked. "At their current speed, they will reach Vidya in approximately 3 days," Zorak replied. "Enough time to prepare," Archer said. "We need to establish communication protocols and defense strategies." Zorak gestured to a holographic display. "I suggest deploying reconnaissance drones to gather more information. If they respond to our presence, we might gauge their intentions without direct confrontation." "Do it," Archer ordered. "And let's set up a secure channel for real-time communication between our teams." As the drones were launched, the entire colony held its breath. Days passed, each hour filled with anxious anticipation. The unknown fleet drew closer, its intentions still a mystery. The day finally arrived. The unidentified fleet entered Vidya's orbit, and the colony's sensors lit up with activity. The joint task force was on high alert, ready for any eventuality. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. "On screen," Archer commanded. The display flickered to life, revealing an alien face unlike any they had seen before. Its skin was a deep, iridescent blue, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. The alien spoke in a melodious but unintelligible language, the universal translator struggling to keep up. "Greetings," the alien finally said, the translation smoothing out. "I am Eler, representative of the Calithian Confederacy. We come in peace and seek to establish contact with other civilizations." Archer and Zorak exchanged relieved glances. "I am Captain John Archer of the human colony on Vidya, and this is Ambassador Zorak of the Vrax Cluster. We welcome you to our world." Eler's expression softened. "Thank you, Captain Archer and Ambassador Zorak. We have traveled far, exploring new worlds and seeking allies. We sensed advanced civilizations here and hope to establish diplomatic relations." Archer nodded. "We share your goal of peaceful exploration and cooperation. Perhaps you would join us on the surface for further discussions?" Eler smiled, a gesture that seemed universal. "We would be honored." We will send a delegation to meet with you. As the transmission ended, Archer turned to Zorak. Looks like we have another opportunity to prove that our alliance can benefit more than just our two species. Indeed, Zorak replied. Let us make the most of it. The arrival of the Calithian delegation was a grand event. The colony prepared a welcoming ceremony, showcasing the unity between humans and Vrax. As Elder and his team descended to the surface, the atmosphere was one of cautious optimism. The discussions that followed were intense but productive. The Calithians shared their own advanced technologies and insights, complementing the knowledge of both humans and Vrax. Together, they began to draft new agreements, paving the way for a multi-species coalition dedicated to exploration, science, and mutual defense. In the following months, the colony on Vidia thrived. The collaborative efforts led to rapid advancements in all fields, and the sense of community grew stronger. Archer and Zorak continued to work closely, their partnership symbolizing the potential of interstellar unity. One evening, as Archer stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement, Zorak joined him. We have come a long way since that first encounter, Zorak remarked. Archer nodded, gazing at the bustling colony below. We have, and this is just the beginning. Zorak's mandibles clicked in agreement. There will be challenges ahead, but together, we can face them. As the twin suns set, casting a golden glow over Vidia, Archer felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. The stars above seemed to twinkle brighter, a reminder of the vast possibilities that lay ahead. With allies by their side and a shared vision of peace, the future of their worlds looked promising indeed.